Windows Recovery Environment, or Windows RE, provides a number of different tools. Reset This PC enables you to roll back the computer to its out-of-box state. You can select Advanced Options and then choose from System Restore, System Image Recovery, Startup Repair, Command Prompt. The Command Prompt tool allows you to run a number of different commands, just as if you're in an elevated command prompt within the user interface, although there are certain restrictions. UEFI firmware settings, so that's an easy way for you to access the UEFI firmware settings within your computer. Startup settings to verify the startup environment, and go back to previous version. That's only available if you've recently updated to a new feature update or a new update version of Windows. To access Windows RE, in the Settings app, choose Update and Security, click the Recovery tab, and then click Restart Now under Advanced Startup. Then, when prompted, choose from the following options: Continue, which allows you to restart into Windows 10, Use a device, which allows you to boot from a USB drive or a network connection or a Windows Recovery DVD that you might have created, turn off your PC, I think that's fairly obvious, or Troubleshoot, which is the option we should choose. When you select Troubleshoot, you can choose between Reset This PC and Advanced Options. Under Advanced Options, you can access System Restore, System Image Recovery, Startup Repair, Command Prompt, UEFI firmware settings, and startup settings to control the startup behavior. There are a number of advanced startup options. These include Enable Debugging, which allows you to retrieve information about what's going on in the kernel of the operating system and extract that information onto a debugging console. Enable Boot Logging, which records the information used during the startup process into a text file, which you can examine later to see if you can identify when a problem is occurring during the startup sequence. Enable Low Resolution Video Mode, which allows you to access the computer in an 800 by 600 video mode for bypassing problems with video adapters and their related drivers. Video drivers are quite complex and quite large and quite intrusive, so if you experience a problem, it can really affect the reliability and stability of your computer. Booting into Low Resolution Video Mode allows you to potentially identify that as a problem and then perform some sort of recovery. Safe mode, and there are a number of different safe modes. Safe mode with networking and safe mode with command prompt allow you to choose between a number of different safe modes, as the name suggests, to perform recovery. In safe mode, a minimal driver set and service set is initialized, so a number of components aren't working properly and you're not connected necessarily to the network depending on the mode that you choose. But you can perform a number of recovery operations either from a command prompt or from within the user interface to bypass a problem. Using safe mode is a good starting point for troubleshooting a computer that won't start properly in a standard mode. Disable driver signature enforcement. If you suspect a problem with a signed driver, and all drivers are signed in Windows 10, then you can bypass this option to see if using an unsigned driver can resolve the issue. That's not recommended, but it might allow you at least to identify the nature of a problem. Disable early launch anti-malware protection. Again, not advised, but if you suspect a problem with that configuration, you can prove it by choosing that option. Disable automatic restart after failure. If your computer receives a blue screen, a stop code, then it will automatically restart itself after the blue screen. That can be undesirable if you want to see what the blue screen is telling you. So you can disable the feature. Then if the blue screen occurs again, then at least you can take a look at what's happening on the screen before it restarts. And then you can launch the recovery environment. To access Advanced Startup, from the Advanced Options menu in Windows RE, choose Startup Settings and then click Restart. In the demonstration, I'll show you how to reset this PC, how to access Advanced Startup options, and how to use the various tools in Windows Recovery Environment. So if you've experienced a serious problem with your computer, it may be that you want to roll it back to the point that it came out of the box. So you can use the Reset This PC option for that. To access it, open up Settings and then click Update and Security and then click the Recovery tab. You can now click Get Started underneath the Reset This PC heading. Now, if you can't start your computer to access settings, then you can start up in Windows recovery mode by booting off the product DVD and choosing Repair this PC when prompted. And then you can select the appropriate option within the troubleshoot menu. We'll take a look at that shortly. So from here, click Get Started. I then have an option to keep my files but remove apps and settings, or remove all of my personal files, apps and settings. Typically, you're going to want to do Keep My Files. You can reinstall apps from the store, but you'll need to reinstall the following apps. So the Microsoft Assessment and Planning Toolkit, the Microsoft Office Professional 2016. In other words, these are desktop apps. So although it said it will retain your apps and settings, it means the store apps. But these are desktop apps and they'll need to be manually reinstalled. So ready to reset this PC. Resetting removes all apps and programs, changes settings back to their defaults, and reinstalls Windows without removing your personal files. So we'll click Reset. So I'm not going to let that run all the way through. So suppose you're experiencing problems with the computer, but you don't want to reset it to the moment when it came out of the box. Then you can choose Advanced Startup Restart Now. If you can't access the Recovery tab through Update and Security in the Settings app, then you can boot off the product DVD and you can access Repair this PC and then follow the instructions to access the advanced startup options through Troubleshoot. Take a look at that in a moment. But this computer is working well enough that I can access the advanced startup options from Settings. So click Restart Now. And you can see here I can continue back into Windows 10 or turn off my computer. Or I can use a device, a network connection or a Windows Recovery DVD to try to recover my PC. I'm going to choose Troubleshoot. You can see the Reset this PC option. So again, if you can't access Reset this PC through the Settings app, you can access it here by booting from a product DVD and accessing Troubleshoot. I'm going to choose Advanced Options. We looked at System Restore already. System Image Recovery. If you've used Backup and Restore Windows 7, you can create a system image and you can then use the system image to recover to a particular point in time. It's quite time consuming, and of course anything from that point in time forwards is lost. So it's only something that you should consider as a last resort. There are probably better ways of recovering the system. Startup Repair. Commonly, the reason a computer won't start is because the boot store or some of the configuration files used in startup have become corrupted. You can have Windows examine the startup environment and attempt fixes. Generally speaking, if you choose that option, it will scan for installations of Windows, Windows 10, and update the boot store accordingly. You can also use the command prompt tool. And some of the commands that you can use in the administrator elevated command prompt when Windows is running can also be used here. Not all of them, but some. Regedit to access the registry if that's a requirement to troubleshoot things. I can also use the net start command to stop and start services to see what's running. BCD edit to view the boot store loader entries. You can see here that there are a couple of Windows Boot Manager and Windows Boot Loader telling me the boot partition and the system partition, and I can use that to, or I can use that tool to reconfigure the startup environment if that's my problem. So there's a number of things I can do through the command prompt. Back here I can choose Troubleshoot again, and then Advanced Options again. And I can also access my UEFI firmware settings. Now this is a virtual machine, so for me that's not going to work, but on a real computer you click that and it'll take you into UEFI setup, so you can enable some of the more advanced features, or if you're experiencing problems, disable some of the more advanced features and see if that helps you recover. I had an instance with a fast startup at one point with a particular computer, and I had to make a change in UEFI, so that was a very clean and easy way of getting into the UEFI firmware settings. Startup settings. These are a way of starting Windows with a sort of a fairly restricted environment. You can choose between a low resolution video mode. You can enable boot logging to log all of the device drivers by name as they're accessed. You can start up in safe mode. You can also disable early launch anti-malware protection in case that's causing some sort of problem for you. So let's take a look at that. So now I can choose enable debugging or boot logging or low resolution mode or safe mode from the list by hitting the appropriate number. There are a few more options. If I press F10 you can see them. Launch the recovery environment. So I can choose any of those. Let's try booting into safe mode. Sign in. And you can see that we're running in safe mode. It's been indicated with safe mode in each of the corners. And so it's a cut down version with a minimal driver set that's running. And now we can hopefully troubleshoot the computer by opening up maybe Device Manager and rolling back a driver, or by taking a look at individual device drivers and replacing those as needed, or using even System Restore. Now, Start is still actually there. You can't see it because of the way this virtual machine is displaying, but I can now access settings and make the configuration changes or the recovery changes that I need to make. Let's go to recovery and then restart now and advanced startup again. So choose troubleshoot, advanced options, and we've talked about all of these. See if there are any more recovery options. Now this is available if you've just performed an upgrade. Go back to a previous version. This is only accessible if you've just upgraded and only for a small period of time. So for example, when the significant feature update 1709, the fall creators update, came out, for a 1 month period I could roll back to 1703 by using this option here. After that, that's not recoverable. And so that's it. We'll now go back and continue into Windows. And now you sign in the normal way. Okay, the final thing is to take a look at what happens if you can't start your computer from its hard disk at all. So I would recommend that you restart the computer or turn it on and boot from the product DVD. And you just accept the language and then choose repair your computer. And this looks familiar. We've now got the option to use a recovery device or to go into troubleshoot, and then again we can access command prompt tools, startup repair, system image recovery, even system restore, or go back to a previous version. So all the same recovery tools are present. You just need to start up from the product DVD. So in the demonstration we saw how to use Reset This PC, how to access Advanced Startup, and how to use the tools in Windows RE.